Hello preppers, 'tis I, the Rumpled One. Yeah, I'm wearing camo because, you know, that's what they expect preppers to do. So let's give people what they expect, right? Well, been really rethinking the whole prepping thing. I went to the expo in, the Preppers Expo in Grants Pass a few weekends ago. In fact, I gave a couple of talks there. And one of the things I was talking about is, what disasters can you outwalk? And it always catches people off guard because they go, don't you mean outrun? I go, no, outwalk, because if you got a bug out bag strapped on or you're carrying it, chances are you ain't going to be running. But the point is, when you really think about it, there's not too many disasters that you're going to outrun or outwalk. You're not going to outrun a tornado or a hurricane, flood, forest fire. I mean, there's, you know, an earthquake, a tsunami. You're just not going to do it. So it's really time to rethink the whole thing. Because, you know, this whole idea about the bug out bag, your 72-hour bag and all that, I don't think people really understand the parts that comprise a disaster. You see, before a disaster, that's when you prepare. That's when you do everything you need to do. Acquire supplies and tools, knowledge, information, practical skills. Then when a disaster hits, there's only one thing you have to do, and that's survive. But you see, surviving the disaster is usually a short time frame. You know, earthquake, minutes. You know, forest fire, maybe days. Flood, days. Thing is, after that, the first initial disaster hits, you just need to stay alive. That's basically what you do. Stay alive and hopefully not get injured. You know, because if the ground starts shaking, or, you know, see flames or something, or you see water rushing, you just, hopefully you can get out of it or get to someplace safe, and you can just ride it out. But you see, really nothing in your bug out bag is going to help you survive the disaster. You see, what you're really talking about is surviving after the disaster. That's what that bug out bag's going to do for you in the most cases, if you have it with you. Because as I explain to people, you're only going to be one of two places when a disaster hits. You're either going to be at home or you're going to be away from home. There's no other choice, right? So when you start breaking it down like that, well, if I'm at home and some disaster happens, then either I'm going to bug in, or if need be, I'm going to have to leave. You know, if there's a raging forest fire coming, bugging in really isn't the smart choice. I only laugh because there's some people go, oh, I'm only bugging in or only bugging out. But I think we've been over that before. So you see, when you rethink it, number one, a bug out bag isn't going to help you survive the disaster. It's the aftermath. But you see, what you're really looking to do after a disaster is not just survive, because once again, surviving is just usually short term. You survive an event or something that occurred. Like you survive a bear attack, a shark attack, or something like that. You survive that attack. But after that attack, now you need to sustain. And that's where it gets tricky. See, that's where your skills come in. Whether or not you can sustain. But depending on a disaster, there's a question. Why would you stay and tough it out if you could just leave, go a few hundred miles, or get in a jet and 1,000 miles where everything's okay. That's just a question you have to ask and answer for yourself. But you see, the other thing about these bug out bags and all, because at this expo, I mean, I walked around, I saw all the vendors, and hey, shout out to Backwoods Home Magazine. I saw them there. And basically, it's a bunch of people trying to sell you a bunch of stuff that you really don't need. Hey, some of the stuff I saw there is laughable. I mean, you get these people all hyped up, you know, these preppers, you get them in the room, you get them all hyped up and everything, and then you can start selling them stuff. You know, kind of like those motivational seminars. You know, they get you all hyped up, you buy the book or the tape, and then you bring it home, it goes on the shelf, and you never crack it open. But I mean, it's just really funny to watch people get separated from their dollars like that. But the thing is, when you really think about what do you need in the bug out bag, it's like I tell people, you know, a lot of people get things kind of out of order. First thing is, you know, you got to breathe, so you might have an N95, N98, or N100 mask, so, you know, you can put it over your nose and mouth and not breathe in anything bad. You know, that's really light. But next thing, you know, most people start talking about water or food. No, 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 no. You got to keep your core temperature within, you know, plus or minus 5 degrees, or you're going to die. You're going to die in about 3 or 4 hours due to exposure, either too hot or too cold. So that's the most important thing, especially here in the Northwest where it's windy and rainy a lot. And temperatures, I mean, here it's summertime and it's like 60 degrees. So if you got cold and wet, and you couldn't dry and you couldn't keep warm, you're not going to last too long in this temperature. It's just not going to happen. You're going to die. So what you really need to do is have something to keep you warm, keep you dry. That's the big thing. And the other thing is, when I talked about, you know, can you outwalk a disaster? Better have something that you can walk in. You know, if you're wearing high heels, you ain't going to get too far. Guys, if you're wearing some kind of, you know, flip-flops or something, you're not going to get too far. Better have some kind of hiking boots, sturdy shoes, something that, because you might have to hike over some pretty nasty terrain, rocks and sticks and barbed wire. Who knows what you're going to have to hike over. So, and what you might step in or on. So, better protect them footsies. It's just that simple. It's just, see, a lot of this stuff's common sense. I'm probably, you know, once again preaching to the choir, but who knows, maybe there's somebody seeing this for the first time and maybe they can learn something. But, you know, all these fancy flashlights, knives, I mean, what? And then it's just like I was watching a YouTube video and the guy says, you know, you don't really need a compass in your bug out bag. Because the thing is, if you have a compass, you shouldn't be lost in the first place. I mean, really, do you know how hard it is to get lost? I mean, think about it. When was the last time you were lost? I mean, really lost. I mean, I was really thinking about this. I mean, if you were flying in an airplane and you were asleep and you crash landed and you survived, and now you don't know where the hell you are, okay, you're lost. Or, you know, you're shipwrecked or something. But, I mean, just traveling around the good old US of A, you know, unless you run into the woods after some animal or something, you know, and you just run for hours and you get turned around, I mean, still. That's your fault for doing something stupid in the first place. You know, if you don't know where you're going, and how are you going to know how to get back? I mean, see, most of these situations can be avoided. You know, accidents can be prevented. You know, and disasters, some of them can be avoided. Or at least the consequences can be minimized. Just a little thought, little preparation. You know, the food and water, sure. The one thing, if you don't have it, you can go to Walmart and get yourself a Sawyer water filter for 20 bucks. It filters 100,000 gallons. I think that'll carry you through, you know, most disasters. Because, you know, you're definitely going to need some water. Food, energy bars, something. But, you know, in the bug out bag, I can tell people, you know, what's the most important item? I always say toilet paper. It's joking, but it's not, because, you know, you don't want to be caught without that toilet paper. It's kind of miserable, right? But I mean, if you wear any kind of glasses, have a spare pair in a hard case. You know, if you have medication, you know, have at least 7 days, maybe 2 weeks, maybe 30 days in your bag, because you just don't know. Because if you need to take that medication, you know, once a day, twice a day, and something happens and you don't have it, it might be 2, 3, 4 days before they can get you any medication, which means you might be dead. So, once again, it's just these type of things, you know, that I'm not going to sell you anything. I'm not, you know, the only thing I tell you is if you don't have a water filter, get a water filter. Everything else you pretty much have. You don't need a bunch of fancy stuff. I mean, some guy did a video, you know, you can go to Harbor Freight and buy all the survival gear. You can go to Walmart and buy everything you need to survive, which is pretty much true. Except I don't think they sell water filters at Harbor Freight. But, I mean, the thing is, what I'm trying to get across is number one, you know, just rethink this whole bug out bag thing, because I think there's just a bunch of people trying to separate you from your dollars. So if you just apply some common sense, some logic to it, and just think it through, I mean really think it through, you'll see that most of this stuff's not necessary. I mean, having a fishing line and a fish hook, I mean, look at what's going on in Venezuela right now. In any of these disaster movies or news or documentaries, I never see anybody surviving with that. I mean, they just got this Rambozo mentality, you know, wearing the camo and stuff. Oh, man. The stories we tell ourselves, it's just too funny at times. But anyway, you know, just really rethink your bug out bag. Don't rush out and spend a bunch of money on stuff you don't need. This whole thing about, you know, disasters, you know, just try not to put yourself in a situation that you can avoid. Some things you can't. Just be prepared. Because if you fail to prepare, you're preparing to fail. The Rumpled One, signing off.